Hi, Steve here in my workshop in Bellevue. This is lesson 2-9, miters in the Shopsmith Mark IV 7520 self-study course. In this particular assignment, we're going to be setting up your miter gauge, both the right and the left stop, so you can do perfect miters every time. And I want you to pay close attention to the procedure I go through on this, because if you want to get accurate, repeatable results, please do it this way that I show you here. So, as noted in your assignment, we need to have 4 pieces of stock, 11 3/4 inches wide, like this. It's just 1 by stock, 3/4 inch thick, 2.5 inches wide. And we're going to take these 4 pieces, we'll cut miters in each end and form it into a frame that has equal side length. And to do that, we're going to first start, as you noticed in your written instructions, with setting up the right on the right side here. And so we've got the miter gauge set up here with the extension fence on here. Notice that the extension fence is butted up even with this end of the miter gauge here when we do it on this side. And you notice on the table setup, we've got adequate support. So I've got this table here to support this end of the extension fence that's on the miter gauge, and I have this outfeed table, also the same reason, to support that when I go out there as well. And on the other side, that's why we have this on for when we do the other side as well. So I've already cut this side over here, and the results you want to get when we're done, these are our setup pieces that we use. Now, in the written instructions, it says you can either use the 2.5 inch wide, you've got 5 pieces of that left. You can use 1 for this and then the other 4 for doing this setup here, or you can use 3-inch wide MDF, either way. So in the written instructions, I did MDF. In here in the video, I'm going to use the stock instead. So what I did here is, after I got this set up, to do the test cut, we take our piece of stock and we put it in here. We have a stop block here for support. And when we feed it through, the procedure for feeding this through is you hold this against the miter gauge extension. Against that block there, I hold down on the safety grip. And then when we push it through, we gently push the miter bar towards the blade when we push it through. So when that goes through, I'm gently pushing it towards that blade as I push it through, so that the miter gauge bar rides against this side of the slot. So when I push through till I get to here, and about right there is where I can see that the teeth have cut back through the back side. Now at that point, I pull the miter gauge this way against that side of the bar when I pull it back. And that will ensure that the teeth are not going to rub against this cut that we just did when we do that. So I did that on both pieces. And now to test if I have accurately set up my 45 correctly, we take these 2 pieces and we put them together in a miter. And we want to see if they form a perfect square. And if you want to bring the camera over here to get a closer look on this, you want to use these long pieces. Don't use shorter pieces, use long ones, and you want to use a carpenter's square because it's got these long legs on here and you're going to get the most accuracy. So when I fit this together, I want to make sure that this edge is butted against that leg, this edge is butted against that leg, is perfectly against it, and these should come together. If I've got a perfect, you see how tight that is there at the miter? And if also it's against these legs. Now, if when you do this you have any space up here or down here, or if you have space out here or down here, you'll know that your 45 is not exact. You're going to have to adjust it. And you do that with your adjuster screw here on the miter gauge. Let me move this off here so I don't want that dropping on the floor. I'll show you on this one here. So for the stop over on this side, there's a screw right there. So you can either screw that in or out to make your adjustment. And if you do this the first time and it's exact, you're going to be really lucky. I'll just tell you. So you're probably going to have to do it 2 or 3 times. So you'll do it. You'll make an adjustment. You'll do it again. You do an adjustment. You'll go back and forth probably 3 or 4 times. And each time when you do the next test cut, just move your stop block this way a little bit so you're getting a clean cut each time. So that's how we do that for the setup on that. So what I'm going to do here in the next segment is I'm see you watch me do the cutting of it and setting up here over on the left side. Actually see me go through that process. So that'll be up here on our next segment. So now we're going to do our calibration and setup here on the other side. Now, before we do that though, I want to cut off each of these 4 pieces. Since this end's set up, we're going to go ahead and cut off these 4 pieces to length on one end. And so I got ahead of myself here. I got to put this back. I had got it ready to flip over the other side and I forgot we needed to cut these. So let's put this back on and set it up to cut these 4 on one end. Nice thing of using pine is your screws, you can put these in here without having to do pilot holes. Wood is soft enough that you can do that. Let's put this back on. And I like using the Robert square head drive screws because they'll stay right on your screwdriver. They're not going to slip off when you put them on. Okay, so we're going to set up these to cut one end. And you kind of get a close-up here. I want my screw here, I know is right lined up with the blade here, the center of it. So I want to have this corner here just past the center of that screw is what I want to do for my length. So I will put that, I put that just to the left side of the middle of that screw. That should be fine. So that's where I want to put my stop block. So there's that there. And we'll go ahead and put that on. So all I care about is that each end is at 45 and each one is the same length. I don't care about the exact length at this point. I'll do that when I do the other side. Okay. So let's take this off here. And we take this off. And you probably noticed last time, I got to put these on now, since we're going to do some actual cuts. So the technique here will be the same as we did for the setup, and that is that I want the bar against this side of the slot when I go through, and against this side when I pull it back. So I'm going to go ahead and cut these 4. And you notice that when I pull this back, you don't hear any teeth against that wood. When I push this through, you can hear the teeth against the wood. Now you don't hear them anymore. Pull it back. There they are. Now I need to mention to you all, before I started this video, I did the 7-step safety check. So I did not forget to do that. So for those of you that need a reminder, that's the motor lock, your quill lock, your trunnion lock, your table height lock, and your carriage lock. Nothing on the tubes. Machine's on the ground. Using the upper saw guard with riving knife. All right, so now let's do that other side. So we need to switch the miter gauge extension to the other side. But before we do that, so I'll just take this out. I already done these screws earlier, the screw holes, so you wouldn't have to watch me creating them. So I'll just move these screws down to do for the other end. I think that's right. Nope, wrong hole. Okay. So we've repositioned that. Now on the miter gauge, we're going to do the 45 on the other side. So start by loosening up this. Use your Allen's wrench there to loosen the knob. Pull the pin out. Put it over the other side. Now, for your initial setup on here, in the written instructions said you're going to use your combination square, the 45 on it. So you want to take here, and I find it a little bit easier to remove this safety grip. You can get in there a little bit better. So when you do this, make sure the pin is pulled out. I'm going to loosen this, and now we're going to use the 45 on here. We want to make sure that this edge here is right on the bar, and then we want the blade to be right on the miter gauge. Wait a second here. There we go. Try this again. Let's see. Here we are. All right. So there we are. So you notice we set this up. We want to make sure. Let's get in here. If you need to get in here closer, I want you to be able to see this. So you see here, we want to have the blade riding against the miter gauge all around the entire length. You don't want to have any space anywhere. You also want to make sure that this bar is against this leg here all the way on its entire length. Easiest way to do that is right like this. Once I get it there, I'm going to take my knob and I'm going to tighten it a little bit, not completely yet. And now we're going to tighten it with this. What you want to do, you got to be careful so that you don't move this when we tighten it. So just try and hold this in here. Tighten that up a little bit more there. At that point, that's when we do our test cut. So now that we've done that, go back here on your pin now. Now, see how the pin here is moving in and out pretty easily, all right? So I need to adjust this screw here initially so that it is, you want to adjust the screw here, tighten a little bit so that there's a little bit of, actually I can hear it touching. It should be touching the end of that screw when you put it in there a little bit. So if you can hear it bumping against that screw, you're all right when you do that, all right? So now we take this, put it back in here, and now we're going to put our extension on. And we'll tighten that up. There. And okay. Here we are there. There. Okay, let's see why that's not down on there. Okay. I didn't tighten my knobs on my floating table. That's why it's not up against her. So I need to make sure your knobs are tightened on your floating table here. Okay. So there we are there. Let's see how we're doing now. I'm going to loosen this a little bit from here. There we go. So loosen your screws, so make sure that you've got this flat on here, and then tighten your screws. All right, there we are. So now we'll put this back on. And my stop box down in the clutter collector. So now we're going to do our test cut here on the other side. We're not ready to cut these pieces yet. Okay, so let's get our, so these are two for our test cut, and we're going to go ahead and do our test cut on this side. The stock goes in here. Same thing for positioning. I'm going to position it so that this corner here is just past the center screw there. Yeah, that's about right there. And now we'll go ahead and put our stop block on. Now, some of you would say, well, why can't I do this without a stop block? The reason being is that stop block adds support. We want to make sure that this stock is firmly against the stop block the whole time we push that through, so we can get an accurate cut. All right, so that is ready there. So the technique here is going to be similar to the last one, this time where we will push it this way, so it's against this side of the bar when we go through, and we'll make sure it is against this side when we pull back. So now let's check these with the square, find out how accurate we are on setting it. Okay, let's get our square. Come up here and let's find out. Okay, come look at this. I'm tied against those legs. And if you look on here, I've got it tied against these two legs here. You'll look at my miter here. Actually, that's tight. All right. So that is good right there. Now, I just got to let you know that this was already set before I did this. In other words, the stop pin has been done because I've done this assignment previously. When you do it, it's not going to turn out right the first time, just like this. You're going to have to make some adjustments on that screw, like I mentioned on the other side. So now we're going to go ahead and cut the other ends of each of these. And all I care on these is that they're all the same length. That's all I care about. I'm not measuring to a specific measured length here. I just want them all to be the same for the purpose of creating a good frame. So these, when they went through like this. So now, when you do these, you want to make sure that you keep the same side up each time. So the first time these all went through like this, okay? So we want to keep that same bottom edge against the table. So these will go through like this. All right? So let's set our stop block to do that. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to set these again just past there. Just past that screw. And we're going to put a stop block there, just like we did before.
It's still on here.
And the stop block is still on there. And okay. So here's this. Got my stop block right there. I want to make sure. Okay. Here we are. All right, and we will cut each of these now to the same length. Again, same thing when I push it through. I'm holding this stock against the stop block that way. With my finger, pull it that way. And at the same time, I'm pushing the bar against that side going through and that side coming back as I squeeze on here as well. All right, so the key to getting perfect picture frames is not only getting the angles perfect, it's getting the length of them all exactly correct. In other words, these we have all four sides the same, so when these are put together, stacked against each other like this, okay, I could take my finger and line the edges up here. I can feel that's flush there, and I can feel that is flush there. So that's, but if you're doing picture frames that one side's longer than the other, then the pairs you want to have be exactly the same length. So now when we put this together into a picture frame, so we would have, I would have that there. Well, let's see if I got room enough here on the table to do this, or if I need to move over to, I think I can do it over here on this side over here. I think I've got enough room without having to go over my workbench. So take that off. Okay, so I'll put this here, and this one here, and this one here. Well, you get the idea here. I don't have clamps on it currently. So here I've gone back and corrected those cuts and got them exact. And now I put a band clamp around them so you can see that they all fit tightly together. So this is just an addition here at the very end. See you on the next one.